Thank you, Tan Sri. Yang bahagia Tan Sri Abdul Wahid Omar, Chairman of Bursa Malaysia. Yang bahagia Datuk Johan Mahmud Merikan, Secretary General of Treasury, Ministry of Finance. Yang bahagia Datuk Muhammad Fadzil, Nisa, Secretary General, Ministry of Communications and Digital. Yang bahagia Datuk Muhammad Omar Swift, CEO of Bursa Malaysia. Mr. Nick Mahmud, Country Head Makari Malaysia. Encik Alishal, Communications and Digital Advisor. Investors, CEOs, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to stand before you. I remember we had a previous session earlier in the year, and that time we had not yet embarked upon this reimagining of the rollout of 5G in Malaysia. And I remember at that time there were attempts to probe, to try and pick my mind, to let the cat out of the bag. Not yet at that time. But as we have heard on the 3rd of May, the government announced that the policy for the rollout of 5G in Malaysia will, for this year, take place under DNB until we reach 80% coverage of populated areas, or COPA, after which, and based upon conditions set by the government, we will allow the formation of a second network. So it will be entities A and B, where entity A, DNB, will continue, along with approximately half of the MNOs, mobile network operators, whereas entity B will comprise of another portion of the MNOs. This is an important, I suppose, mukaddimah, or an opening statement, to make sure that it is clearly understood. One, in arriving at this decision, the government, particularly the cabinet, is well aware and cognizant of the fact that we will honor the sanctity of contract that have been signed upon by DNB, and as such, we intend to see the rollout of 5G for the first network achieve 80% coverage of populated areas. And I'm very happy to inform all of you that on the 3rd of May, we initiated 5G task force, co-chaired by Datuk KSP and Datuk KSU. And they've had 2 meetings. They released a statement yesterday. And I'm also happy to inform you that as of the 30th of May, we've reached, on the 31st of March, the coverage of populated areas reached as 57.8%, and by the 31st of May, we reached 62.1% of populated areas. This indicates that the rollout is continuing expeditiously. The government aims to ensure that by the end of this year, as far as possible, we are able to reach 80% coverage, and there has been a commitment by all of the MNOs to see this through. So, of course, in my keynote, I have to thank all of the MNOs. I see Eng is here. Siapa lagi? Mana? Alban is here, from Celcom DG. So, in front of all of these investors, I don't know if you remember, if you were there at the previous session. Yes, Dato' Imri. Congratulations again on your second Dato' on Monday from TM. But at that time, I said that I was pleasantly surprised at the willingness of these arch competitors to sit together in meeting after meeting in the interest of public good and in the interest of the nation to find a way forward. Alhamdulillah, I remain true to that position. Even until today, the MNOs continue with our planned rollout, and they are participating fully through the 5G task force. And of course, we come to the topic that has been presented, which is tomorrow's infrastructure today. Now, of course, one thing has occupied my mind, and of course, the future, or the discussion about the future, is exciting But it's also about what we need to do to get to that future. Talking about and thinking about deeply about the future, I feel, is a conversation that is chiefly rooted in discovery, where each and every one of us has the valuable opportunity to gain new insights and ideas with which we may move ourselves and ultimately this nation forward. Ladies and gentlemen, in a number of press conferences from the start of this year, the government as well as a number of agencies have announced updates such as that which I have given you just now. That number is hot off the press. So you're the first to hear that number. But I personally, as well as the administration, would like to see that there is a faster rate of progress for 5G rollout throughout the country, be it in the peninsula or in Sabah and Sarawak. As such, in several of my work visits, particularly to Sarawak recently, we had a very fruitful, productive and comprehensive discussion with the Premier as well as the State Minister for Telecommunications and Utility to address problems that Sarawakians face, which is what they call naked towers. And we have to thank DNB and the rollout so far for introducing the mobile operator core network, which has enabled multiple operators to operate quite almost seamlessly and quite easily. And so from that visit a few weeks ago at the end of May, my instruction to MCMC, to all of the MNOs, beginning with Sarawak, we would like to ensure that all 600 towers that have been built by SDEC and by SMA in Sarawak are fully on air. And the requirement is that the MNOs have to come to some kind of arrangement, commercial agreement, to make sure that there is seamless operation. This is in line with earlier announcements that I've made about resolving. We talk about 5G, but we can't leave 4G behind, because the reality is that most Malaysians at this point in time also ask questions. Yes, it's good that we have 5G, tapi 4G pun tak dapat. Let me see what the speed is here. Hey, there's no 5G in here. So this is the problem, Tan Sri. It's not about DNB, and it's also about, I'm using Maxis. Yeah? So Maxis belum sign lagi kan? Oh, I can announce, I can inform you, inshallah, signing soon, yes? Yes, very good, alhamdulillah, yeah, Eng. Yeah. So, but even on 4G, we only have 2 bars, and we're right in the center of Kuala Lumpur. This has nothing to do with towers, this actually has to do with in-building coverage, yeah, IBC. So when we had this comprehensive discussion in Sarawak, it dovetails with the larger and wider discussion about the infrastructure rollout for 5G. I am very happy to inform you that, again, whether it's about 5G rollout or upgrading the 4G experience, the focus of this administration will not only be on quality of service. In fact, I've instructed MCMC to shift the policy towards a quality of experience. This is something which is relatively new. MCMC has said that they intend to roll this out before end of this year. The Prime Minister feels that that's quite a long wait, so inshallah it might be sooner than that. But what does this mean? Inshallah we will make further announcements soon. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, we discuss, we plan, we announce numbers and figures, we talk about the potential of the future, and there's a sense of impatience, obviously. And the sense that we should already have this technology if we were to look at neighboring countries within the region. And yet I invite you to imagine for a moment the feelings and desires of a nation, of a generation that is too young to know dial-up internet, phones that are not smart, television that is neither slim nor flat. And they are already eagerly awaiting for what we call the future, and are aware that it is already alive and well somewhere around the world today, perhaps in a neighboring country. Now, if there's someone who is going to be a little less patient than us, it would certainly be them. And there are good reasons to be impatient. The promise of digital Malaysia for this government is very tangible. With it, we see the tools that can help solve a number of pressing, whether it's societal, economic, developmental issues. It can assist in driving productivity, in collecting, managing, and utilizing useful and highly insightful data, and in building the economic springboards that suit this nation and our citizens' needs. By 2025, the forecast for Malaysia's digital economy sees it contributing actually 25.5% of GDP. That's our target. Yeah? And as Tan Sri mentioned just now, Tan Sri Chairman mentioned just now, about 500,000 new jobs. Now, a mission-critical requirement for us is also the issue of data protection and cybersecurity. These are pressing issues the world over, and Malaysia, of course, is not immune to them. The nation's approach to the digital economy focuses on outcomes that benefit the people, businesses, and the government. Some of the indicators, among others, are to ensure a 30% uplift in productivity and vast adoption of e-commerce among medium and small and micro entrepreneurs. In these efforts, the role of government is ultimately one of guidance through policy making as well as a catalyst. We stand firm on the point that Malaysia's future has to be built hand in hand with the involvement of the private sector. I note that across the various working groups and task forces between the public and private sector, this collaboration has grown well, and I look forward to seeing more collaboration. Now, ladies and gentlemen, cooperation between private and public spheres is important in the subject at hand. And it is there to ensure that the promise of digital Malaysia has great reach, from the most developed urban centers all the way to the most remote of areas. It is therefore important to see 5G and cloud technologies within the context of the broader Jendela initiative. Connecting all Malaysians to the promise of the digital economy is a key driver that will help bring equitable progress to all who seek it. We are currently have 96.92% coverage of populated areas in terms of 4G. In certain places like Kuala Lumpur, of course, 4G coverage is ubiquitous. And yet there are, in general, approximately 3% of the population that are as yet unconnected. They could live in rural areas, in islands, places like Pulau Tuba, just 15 minutes away, 10 minutes away from Langkawi, or Pos Orang Asli. Now, solutions to connect this last 3% of the populated areas could bring tremendous economic advantage, not only to those residing there, but also to bring products and services to these communities. We anticipate that the spread of fiber broadband access to 9 million premises and have mobile broadband speeds of 100 Mbps to be achievable by 2025. A key part of Jendela is the focus on 5G, where we see it reach 80% coverage by the end of this year, inshallah. And specifically, out of the 62.1% coverage that we have reached as of the end of May, there are 5,058 5G sites that have been built up, an increase of 2.6% from the previous month. What will be of particular interest to all will be the shift to the dual network, inshallah, beginning next year, which will be spearheaded by private entities. And this will be the key topic of the first panel session. Ladies and gentlemen, another big part of Digital Malaysia concerns cloud technologies and data centers. It is one of the key building blocks to achieve a 25.5% digital economy contribution to GDP by 2025. This ministry has championed a cloud-first policy and seen growing cloud adoption by the public sector. Investors will also find that we are committed to providing reasonable tax incentives and security infrastructure, green energy facilities, and locations for data centers. You would no doubt be aware of the announcements of large investments made by global companies such as Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, Bridge Data Centers, Keppel Data Centers, Google, Alibaba. But what is less known is that Malaysia has one of the most developed data center markets in Southeast Asia. Market analyst organization, Ariston, estimated its value to rise to $1.57 billion by 2027. Of particular interest to me in today's program, ladies and gentlemen, is a panel that is set aside solely for case studies, real-life implementation examples, and learning through others' experiences are key for many in navigating the evolving capabilities of these technologies. I would like to commend the generous efforts of the executives from Astro, ada sini ke? Belum lagi. Maxis and Palo Alto Networks in sharing their learnings and contribution for the greater good. The spirit of collaboration and cooperation is key for us here in Malaysia as we seek to transform businesses, individual skills, and mindsets to learn, adapt, and experiment to find what works best for us and our particular circumstances. For us, generating success stories of all sizes play a key role, far from being simply a matter of pride or an ego boost, but rather success stories are the things that inspire many to come along on a journey that may be challenging at first, but ultimately rewarding in so many ways over time. In several of my visits to many different parts of the country so far, one of the most inspiring stories would be seeing how the lives of ordinary Malaysians residing in small kampung areas have been uplifted by their being connected to the digital economy. Pak Cik living in Ulu Tiram, just about an hour away from Tambak Johor, the causeway. He sells cendol. And in this kampung, we have a digital economy center, Pusat Economy Digital, run by MCMC. This Pak Cik used to sell his cendol. Maybe he earned about 500-600 ringgit a month, selling cendol from the back of his car. But given that you can't really sell cendol on Shopee or Lazada, I was pleasantly surprised that just by mere promoting of his cendol, he was able to increase his monthly income from 500 ringgit to 2,500 ringgit a month. Again, in another location, in Kuah, in Langkawi, I met a young lady who was a manager, or is a manager, of one of our paddies, Pusat Economy Digital. What's interesting is that these paddy managers are given a monthly stipend, but yet it is not enough. And what they did was, they started seeing that, hey, all of these entrepreneurs are coming and benefiting from these programs at our paddies, and they're earning a lot. So this lady started to do it on her own. And in the first month, during the pandemic, her monthly income from doing dropship was 35,000 ringgit. Anyone from LHDN here? No? Okay. But it goes to show that by connecting people, by reducing this digital divide, we're able to literally enrich ordinary Malaysians, if only we can get to them. As such, the role that all of the MNOs, all of the infrastructure, the infracos, this is a major part of the future, a part of what I have described as the first pillar of 3 to ensure that we are able to realize a golden age of digital economy in Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not watering down my statement. I do believe that it is something that we can achieve if we get these fundamentals right. Infrastructure, the second pillar being understanding the value of data, protecting but fully optimized usage of our data, and using it securely and safely. And the third pillar being enabling investments to come and growing the digital economy. If these 3 pillars are sound, with the right policy, with the right initiative, with strong participation from private sector, public, I do believe, inshallah, we can realize that golden digital decade and that we can, Malaysia can, become an ASEAN digital tiger, inshallah. Ladies and gentlemen, now, all of this technology, all of this infrastructure, technically is the easy part. Malaysia has proven that time and again, we can build world-class infrastructure. Let's not forget that Malaysia is still the country with the world's fastest fiber-to-home rollout in the world. And this is recognized by British Telecom Teleconsult in 2010. That's made possible by our people, the talent that we have, and the policies that provide opportunities for all of this talent to shine. It doesn't matter, in the context of 5G particularly, whether we have one 5G network or 3 networks. What's equally important to me, at least, is how are we going to use these networks? Malaysia can build a world-class, world-leading 5G network, and we have the time-proven technical capabilities. What I'm equally and very interested in is what our pool of talented technologists and companies will do with the network. Now, some of you are in this room today. It's time that we co-create and drive use cases that will take us and our key economic sectors, as well as leading industries, to the next level, into, like I said just now, a golden digital decade for Malaysia, led by our homegrown telcos and tech companies with global partnerships. Ladies and gentlemen, it's often repeated that Malaysia is the gateway to ASEAN. But once we remove the geographical reasons that make this statement true, it seems to us that it is better to see collaborations that are possible across ASEAN and how we may be of benefit to each other. While we fully intend for these technologies to help connect the entrepreneurial spirit of Malaysians to other fast-growing ASEAN companies, ASEAN economies, which are home to over 600 million souls, there are other ways to view our neighbors around us. Of course, as the adoption of these technologies speeds up across the region, one would expect steep competition between markets to attract the right players in. I would invite investors to take the long view of Malaysia as a preferred investment destination. We have the talent, we have the right formula, we have the right path for a brighter future. And so in closing, ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to our next step, starting the first panel discussion of today and being part of a robust discussion of our shared future. I assure you my enthusiasm for the future and all the potential it holds grows from day to day. The future is certainly a never-ending discussion that finds new energy in every good conversation. We should all do what we can to keep its promise burning bright and turn it into the reality that we and all Malaysians, all particularly connected Malaysians, can live in. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.